One.
Time waits for no one. It's time to decide. Do you wanna live a new
Peace. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our Sabbath after show, where we speaking about the seeds of Satan. Peace, 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 athletic. Peace for joining us.
Oh man, I'm sitting here laughing because I'm like, we still got to get this intro part together. We on camera, off camera, and everything else. So, oh man, but thank y'all for tuning in and hanging in there with us as we gonna get better. That's we gonna get better. Oh man. Well, yeah, it was odd. It was odd, but still, Toda Rabbah Hashem for this opportunity to be here. For those of you who are joining us, we are coming off of the Sabbath message that our Master Chief Yuya, as you can see, is in the chat. He provided today, where he talked about the seed of Satan. And make sure you go over to the Our New Life Global Ministry channel to check that segment out so you can get an idea of what we're talking about today. But Okoti, I don't know if you want to give an overview of just some of the things he hit on.
Oh my goodness. This seven was really
Not
great. I was
so.
like, you know, like you watching a movie, you like holding on the edge of your seat. You like, that's how I was. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my goodness. And we're gonna come with study session with something. Yeah,
Mhm.
this was really great. Just speaking about uh the land of the dragon. That was one. The
Mhm.
bloodline of Bethlehem. Uh, ooh, it was just so much. The real name for Satan and Lucifer. That was another
Mhm.
one. It was
Mhm.
it was so many points, so many routes and avenues. But those are just some of the things. But if you have not catch the Sabbath Insight today, go to Our New Life Global YouTube channel and go back and watch it because it was packed full of knowledge and full of study too.
Mhm.
So you
And
definitely want
one of the things I just want to note, like when we're talking about this segment, but just understand when he's breaking down these concepts of the seed of Satan, and just how we think in terms of Satan and God, or the good and the bad. And so he's just giving us some insight and some information for us to be able to think and understand where some of these concepts come from and why we may think in the way that we do, because we may not have taken the time to actually go and research or to learn and really understand where these things are coming from. So he pretty much gave us a primer. It was a lot, but I'm pretty sure he would say it was just a primer, or as he would say, some crumbs, so we can just kind of get out of that mindset that we all came from when we, talk about being born or raised in Babylon culture. So, um, yeah, with that just being said, I don't know. We could start off with our first point. We had a couple of points we were hitting on behind screen, so that's what kind of took us a minute to get on camera. But Akota, you had some beautiful points. I'm gonna let you start us off.
Yeah, I'll start with when she mentioned like Satan was the accuser of the angels, and man, when he was sharing that, like how like the angel was sit and witness some wickedness, and they
Mm-hmm.
get pulled down from heaven as a result. I was like, oh my goodness, I see so many situations like that, even down to when someone is being lied, or like their name is being slandered, or like their character is being slandered. Like even those, it's like
Mm-hmm.
it's like instances of like Satan like trying to pull that person down. And I thought about an example, like my son was sharing with me when he was going to school. There was something happening where two children or teens were, kissing and things of that nature, but it wasn't the original reflection of what the creator established. So it was like
Mm-hmm.
there was another child that seen it and threw up. They just like they vomited, and all the students were laughing at him. And I'm like, oh, that's so sad, because he probably came from a pure background where he'd never seen anything like that, to the point where it caused him to vomit just seeing something like that. And I thought
Mm-hmm.
about even being a witness of that, like being pulled down from heaven, and you have like Satan's people just laugh, thinking it's funny. And also, I know that person just witnessed something that was so like vile to its spirit, you know. And
Mhm.
I was just like, yeah, there's so many instances of that, you know. So you have Satan laughing at the angel being pulled down and being pulled
Mm,
off their throne and things like that. And it's like they're getting
mm,
something. And it's like there's a lot of people who are like that in general who get a kick out of seeing someone fall down, like waiting for people to make mistakes. Like that's an example. Like, oh, I can't wait for them to fall down, and you know, like things like that. It's like that spirit is just it's just terrible. I just don't.
mhm.
I get passionate just talking about it because it's like I don't like that spirit or that energy at all.
Mhm. I can
Um,
understand when you're talking about that, especially with children, because you know, they seem to be the most purest, right? Or the ones that just they haven't experienced or been exposed to so many corrupted
mhm.
seeds. Let's just say corrupted seeds of thought. And it's interesting. I'm thinking about two particular occasions where I remember being amongst a child and seeing like these two parents. They were arguing, and one of the parents was like, "We're not going to do this in front of the the child." It was like we don't want to corrupt them with that image or seeing that like that fighting and what is
That's
supposed to be divine, that divine connection between a man and a woman, showing like they can't get along. So I think about that when you talk about children being exposed to the corrupted seed, or those angels, or what we might say the malakim, because we learned that from master. The word angel means malakim. um but also I remember it's interesting. I remember being somewhere, I was working, and we had an intern, and she was well, I guess she would say she was a Jezebel. And I remember sharing, yeah, I remember sharing some information with her just in regards to I knew in the culture, and I was sharing something because she was like, oh, she didn't know anything about it. And I remember she was talking to another coworker or something, and she was just talking about something that was just, it was worldly. It was very worldly. And she noticed that I wasn't really participating in those conversations or really participating in much of anything. And she turned to say something to me. And then she thought about it. And she said, you know what? Never mind. I don't want your people to say I'm corrupting you. And she just did like that in turn. So it's funny because it was like even she knew my thoughts are corrupted. My thoughts are, I've fallen. Maybe she was one of those Malakim that, fell, and she was aware, but it was like, okay, obviously this person over here is on something totally different. So let me not, spread that. So those were some
yeah.
things that came to mind.
Yeah. I remember Don sharing like sometimes the Most High would speak through a person like, okay, let's not corrupt that person. When she's like, let's not corrupt you. Let's not, like they knew not to do that to you. It's like, okay, well, that's considerate, but
Mhm.
yeah, just being aware of like I have this character. Yeah, that's why when Don be like, no, people, you know what you're doing. You know exactly what you're doing. People really do be knowing what they're doing. They know that they're foul.
Coach, he said it sounded like a low key diss. Well, it depends on how you're looking at it, because I didn't feel this, because I felt like, well, I'm over here with I knew. So maybe you're the one that's kind of you. If anything, maybe I should be dissing you, but I'm not. But I'm saying, like, I'm over here with the guys. I'm winning, so I don't know. If she was dissing me or not. Hey, I don't know. I wasn't thinking about it like that. Oh man, there was some things that came up. Just in the conversation we were talking about towards the end, when he was talking about the Nephilim, and he was talking about Gadrael being the original name of Satan, and just how that particular seed has ruled over a particular group of people. And he was talking about the Nephilims and the Egyptians, or what we call ancient Kemet. And I'm going to try to tie this all together, and hopefully I ain't talking too much. But I went back to, how I could get, but I went back to being in art school, and being shown these sculptures, Egyptian sculptures, right? And we had to learn about, the ancient Kemet civilization and how they use their art and what it means. And more recently, I went to a museum and, I was able to see a couple of the statues in real life. And one of the statues, I just jotted it down, was the Akenes Mary Re statue. And this particular statue is of a mother who's actually breastfeeding her son, King Pepi. And so I remember one time just looking at the features, and I just started pointing it out, and I was saying, from the side, this particular sculpture, the features are weird. It's like
Mhm.
the feet, they're elongated. The bottom parts of their body from the waist on down is elongated. And I remember saying something like that to Master once, and he said, "Yeah, it makes you think, right?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "That's weird." And he was saying because they are Nephilims. And
Mhm.
it was interesting because it took me back to being in school and what we were taught. We were taught something totally different, right? In school, right? When I say school, I mean Western civilization, their way of teaching us, right? And we were told that the size of these figures was related to their sense of power, right,
Mhm.
or authority. And I just noticed, how not only some of the figures, of course, their heads were elongated. Sometimes, like the little boy who's sitting on the mother's lap,
Mhm.
it's like he's supposed to be a little boy, but he has the features of a grown man.
Right. That's what.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, so all of this stuff, I'm like, I don't understand it. But at the same time, a lot of the children who were in the class with me, they were just like, they were gravitating to it. Like, oh, that's me. Those are my people. We from ancient Kemet. Like that's us. So I thought about the idea of being tricked out of our identity. Like for some reason, why do we, when I say we, melanated people here in America or North America, why do we keep trying to associate ourselves with the ancient Kemet people, right?
Mhm.
And I'm looking at it like, well, we don't look like that,
Mhm.
and so it's interesting when Master kind of tied it all together and was like, because they are a product of the seed of Gadriel, which is Satan. So
Mhm.
I say all that to say, I know I said a lot, but as for someone who, is just interested in the arts, I see why getting this information and learning this information is important, because if you are going to teach our people or our children, the information, you got to be able to tell them the truth, because they're not going to get it when they're in school. They might be like some of the other kids to kind of go off and feel like, well, that's who I am. I'm the ancient Kemet people. That's my people. But not realize, like, no, you are really people of Yah. And that is actually a seed of Gadriel or Satan when you're looking at the Egyptian sculptures and people. So how I
Yeah.
tied all that together.
You mentioned like identity, and I do think about what Master had said. Like some people, they look at Egypt or Kemet because it's exotic looking, and you're just trying to find a place where you can say like, okay, there's my nation, or there I can identify myself here. Or you're trying to find where you are in history, and
Mhm.
because I was one of those persons. I was trying to look and find like, oh, I'm ISIS and all this crazy stuff. At one point, sounds crazy when I say that now, but I'm like, I was trying to find, identity, and so it's like
Mhm.
I get that part, but I did think about like, okay, if you have the fallen angels and you fall into a body, Chief has said, like, okay, the body is like you're trapped inside of your body. How do you trap a guy? Give him a body. And I thought about, okay, so we're in, this earthly field and this material because Satan can relate to material.
Mhm.
And so I was like, okay, so if we fell into the body and like, does that mean that some are like the children? I don't want to say us, but like some people are the children of Gadriel or like of Satan or like how do you know? But then I was like, no, as I kept listening to the lesson, he did say like he gave the scripture Revelations 3:20 through 21 and how we are given another chance. Like, Yah wants us to come and sit, be near the throne with them. So I'm like, okay. So no, not everybody is of Satan because they have a body, but we're given a chance to kind of work our way back,
Uh,
like come in alignment with law and follow the commandments and, reestablish that connection or that love because we know love is connection. So I'm like, okay, all right. So it brought me back to the question. I know I'm kind of going a little long, but when he asked, like, was this a test for the children of Israel or Moses? That's what like stumped me. I was like, oh my god, that's a good question. So I was just thinking, I don't think I have the answer, but I was like, well, if the Most High Yah written like scripture and already knew what we're gonna do, then maybe it was a test for Moses. Maybe like can these people be cleaned up? Can they be like can we work with them? Because it's like if Yah already knew that we were gonna fall, and it's like then it's like I don't know, like why would it be a test for us? Um, I don't know,
well,
but that's kind of where my thought went with the question. So if anybody want to add and share which one you like, was it test for Moses or test for children of Israel? Feel free to share or come on and share.
you said something that I thought that I'm like, okay, well, when you say if the Most High Yah knew that we were going to do these things, is it a test? But I think about even being in the house of you, Yah. A lot of times, Master tells us, you're going to do this, you're going to say that, you're going to da 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 da. He already
That's true.
tells us what we're going to do. He already knows, but he also tells us the thing to do, and it's like, I think it's a matter of like what he said in the beginning, like I gave it to you. I gave you the blueprint. I gave you the game and you blew it or you squandered it or whatever. It's kind of
Mhm.
like I think like you said, we all have the potential to rise to our divine potential. So even with Yishmael, I think it's the same thing. And I think with Moses, I said Moses was being tested because it goes back to the whole like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but being filled with passion as opposed to being filled with a sense of duty. So regardless, I feel like passion is something you're gonna feel in your flesh. And if I'm passionate about something, then I do it. But at the moment that passion wears off, I'm no longer doing it. So
Mm,
to me, I'm like with Moses, maybe it was, well, this is what the Most High told me to do, and I'm gonna do it because I have a sense of duty to do the work that the Most High called me to do. And Master has shared that message with us too. Like, it ain't about how you feel. So,
right.
I think about that. And I hope I'm tying all of that together, but that's where my mind went.
Yeah, he posted something recently in Teams about like duty and like not feeling like doing something, but it's like you do it out of duty or something like that. So it's like it's kind of timely, but yeah, I do think about like, okay, if you love me, you'll keep my commandments. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's John 14:15, I believe.
Hmm.
But yeah, like that's true. Well, I shouldn't say that's true, but I'm just thinking like how love is connection. So like if you are connected to the laws and you're connected to the Most High Yah, you're gonna be obedient and do that thing. But it's because you have that connection, you have that understanding, that love, and but I
Hmm.
do think about when Chief has shared like women's like sometimes they don't know how to love or they have to be taught that thing, and I do think about is it because there weren't like laws instilled, or like laws being followed. Like they were not like following the commandments and things of that nature. So they have to be taught what that is,
Hmm.
by being obedient and being told, like, okay, do this, do that. That should start to
Hmm.
get you back in alignment, and that sort of thing. But
Well, when you say it, I'm thinking about like, well, what would cause a woman to not be that, and just taking it back to seed, the seed of Satan or the seed of Yah. And I guess my mind goes back to when we are little girls, right? And if we're growing up under maybe, let's say, a Jezebel or a
mm-hmm,
woman who seeks to usurp the authority or the power of male authority,
mm-hmm,
wouldn't that be like a seed of Satan? So you're doing the opposite. So if a woman, like if a young girl is raised under that, how would she know how to be a woman if she's not seeing it, or she's not getting that seed of thought from a woman who's actually made it to a man? You know
Right.
what I mean? Because then it would be that trickle down effect. So I'm just like, okay, when you talk about women who probably just they don't know how to be women or females, maybe that's what it is. It's like they didn't see that. It wasn't mirrored, from their upbringing. So it's not being mirrored when they get into a relationship or a union, so to say.
I
That's where my mom went.
definitely definitely agree with that. I was thinking about John 8, 45. And because I tell you the truth, ye believe me not. Also, John 8, 44. Ye are
Mhm,
of your father the devil, and the lust of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. So I just was like kind of reading scripture and seeing like how lying and living a lie, like how all of that is connected to Satan,
mhm,
and how like living in truth and following the truth, the way in life, following Yeshua, like that's in alignment with following the Most High Yah. So
mhm,
I kept seeing like this theme of truth and a lie, and the lie being connected to Satan, and truth being connected to the Most High Yah. And I
mhm,
think there's like a lot of examples of like you can kind of see like who, like which father or which Yah a person is connected to based on what it is that they're doing, like how they're living. If
mhm.
they're like kind of like run away from truth, then it's like, okay, well, you kind of aligning yourself with Satan's
Same.
devil. Yeah, but if it's like you are living truth, then it's like, okay, that person is living, a righteous life, or they're more in
Mhm,
alignment with the Most High Yah. So,
mhm.
and there's like so many scriptures in regards to that. But oh, we do have a guest, so I'll go ahead and bring him on. Peace, Master Melek. Peace.
Peace, sisters. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm,
Peace. Thank you for for the recaps as always. I wanted to join in on that who that test was for.
Okay.
I was thinking it was more for Moses than for the Most High. And I don't know. I was thinking about it in terms of a similar test that Adoma had with Hawa, and it was
mhm,
like he could have just given me another woman, and I would have been cool.
mhm,
And it's sort of similar to that with Moses, because he was like, I'll give you another people that are better than this one. So it's not like you have to deal with these stiff necked people. I'll give you better people. But he's like, no, don't destroy these people here.
mhm,
Mhm.
I was thinking about it because of another verse. It's Ezekiel 33 and 11. And it's Yah talking about how he doesn't want, like, he doesn't delight in the death of the wicked. He would rather they be righteous. And I was comparing that to that verse in it was Deuteronomy 9 and 14, where he's like, let me alone that I might destroy these people. But he
mhm,
was saying that, like, it was up to Moses,
mhm,
because if I'm the Most High, if I'm the Almighty, Moses really can't stop me from doing anything. But he told Moses, leave me alone, let me do this. So it was like, is your call, Moses, what you want to do? Right? That's why I thought it was like a test for Moses. That's the way I see
mhm.
it anyway.
That's a
Would
good
you
point.
say even in that, like that was a an attest to him saying like, but this is a duty that I have. I was given this and it's still a duty. Even though it's, I can make the choice, but I'm choosing to honor what was given to me to kind of to do or to be over.
You mean on Moses's part?
Mm-hmm.
I would say, yeah, he did have that duty, and he kind of screwed it up before when he was supposed to, bring water forth from the rock, and he got, like, he lost it. He got angry and he struck the rock.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so like when you tell or you we might have done it when we were young. I know I did it before, and I got the appropriate punishment for it. Like you're told to do something and you don't want to do it, or you might be in a heightened emotional state and you
Mm-hmm.
don't regulate your own emotions, and you learn how to do it through that correction. But you might be told to do it is like go wash those dishes, and you don't want to do it. It's like, listen, I don't care how you feel about it. Go wash those dishes, and you
Mm-hmm.
kind of stomp off, and then you hear these footsteps coming up behind you real quick, like, uh oh, messed up, you know. But in that moment, I did something wrong,
Yeah.
and but it still doesn't change the fact that you get appropriate punishment for it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of similar with them. Like, they're not supposed to be doing that. You don't need that statue to hit Haru. Like, how deep is your faith and what it is you've seen so far? Like Chief was saying, you get all of this deliverance, you get brought out from Egypt, you get brought to the foot of this mountain where you see Yah, and you're so afraid by the reality of it that you're like, well, Moses is your guy, that he can go up. I ain't going up there. So he goes up there, but you don't have any faith that he's coming back down. You need something to worship that bad.
Mm-hmm. I think about as women sometimes, or I don't know, anybody, it could be anybody, but as at times we may have been like brought into a better space or brought out of our chaos, right? And we've been shown kindness and all of these great things, and then sometimes we still let that seed of thought or fear, I'm gonna say fear, um, a fearful thought kind of seep in, and then we start acting crazy, right? And I know women, we do that sometimes, well, a lot of times. But it's just kind of like what you were saying, like you get there and then maybe you start pulling on fearful thought and start acting in a way that's not the way you're supposed to be acting. And then you just cause more chaos in the space. But it just, I'm trying to tie it all back to like the seed of Satan and that thought and anything that's not of Yah. You know, when are those times that we pull on that and we forget, like, you're here. Like, the Most High brought you here. You're good. Like, just do what you're supposed to do, and everything will be just fine.
I think it's tied to the being and doing that Chief had spoken about last night. Where it's like it's not like the destination or where you are geographically on the earth, but
Hmm.
being what you're supposed to be and doing what you're supposed to do
Hmm.
in the moment. And even what he was saying, um, it was something related to that earlier today. Oh, he was talking about identifying yourself with your Yah and identifying yourself with your divine inheritance. You
Hmm.
know, sometimes that messed up side that can be shown um, by people who haven't reached the level of real maturity.
Hmm.
Sometimes that messed up side that you show when you're in times of intense stress or heightened emotion, it just shows what you have deep beneath your surface, and you mask it pretty well. But sometimes you're in such a level of distress that your true nature comes out, and you say, I don't know, I wasn't myself. It's like you might have been yourself, like for the first time in a while, and all those other times you were just trying to seem a
Like you were
certain,
saying.
Right. Mm-hmm.
you're
Hmm.
trying to act right instead of being right, or you're trying to behave as though you're doing what you were supposed to do the whole time. And as long as no one asks you any questions or does any digging into what you really are, then you should be cool.
Hmm.
And that happens a lot with what Chief was talking about earlier on, where we get told, "Oh, Lucifer is the chief musician," or Lucifer is the most beautiful Malakim. That doesn't affect my life at all. So I could just say that, and if I'm sure people will agree with it, I'll just keep saying it until someone asks you, like, what's an angel, or what does Lucifer mean? And now you upset because you don't know, but you never really cared.
So no.
Mm. I think about that scripture. What's in the abundance of the heart? Like that's what would like you will speak out of the abundance of the heart or something like that. And it's like sometimes you'll say something and you'll be like, oh no, let me take that back. That's not what I meant. But it's like, oh, that's what you that's what you really meant though. I just thought about that, like when you try to like something like the truth came out, but you try to like say like try to cover it up. Yeah, that
Mhm.
that came from mind when you were speaking, Master
Yeah,
Kelly. And
it's like
not really
politics.
what you say.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize you weren't done. I was saying it's like politics.
Mhm.
I'm gonna tell you, like, something messed up is gonna happen. That's based on me breaking the promises I made to you when I was running for office. But I'm trying to word it in a way where you don't respond to this new information in a way that you probably a rational person would respond. So I would
Mm,
rather you stay asleep. So I'm going to use very vague and indirect language and stretch out my explanation. And through all of this listening, I'm going to take you down all of these different roads and chambers. By the time I actually reach the point, um, or by the time I actually end my sentence, you don't remember where the actual point is. Me trying to be slick. And if
Mhm.
you cut me off and say, yeah, like Chief would say, like, nah, I didn't do all of that talking because the more you talk, the more I'm going to want to believe you. We're not doing that, you know. But sometimes it is that you're trying to keep people from seeing what's really happening.
When you're talking, it made me think of oh man, the deliverance video. It was a video Master did years ago. That's the one that actually got me. But he was using that as an example, like when you can hear Satan speaking and the
Mhm.
different tactics that he uses. And that was one that he mentioned, like you're saying all these different things that eventually you can't point back to the actual point, because I've been filled the space up with all of this stuff. So I'm like, okay, I'm seeing all of the connections and just yeah, that's what came to mind.
Yeah, and he even said it to one of his relatives, I think, where he said, sometimes I'm paraphrasing, but sometimes I hear Satan speak when you talk.
He did say that. Yes, he did.
Yeah.
one
And
of those.
that's one of those things that would, like, huh? Like, I didn't expect that. So it's hard to keep the mask up. The mask slips for a little bit. Like, what you just said to me? Yeah.
Mm,
How could you start saying things that are like tactics that buy time? Like, how could you say that? Oh my God, that's so mean. Because you're thinking of something. I'm trying to pivot to a way that how can I spin this? Because he just called me out.
instead of just being like, you know what? Yeah, yeah. Just be upfront. Yeah, I did that. I said that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Proverbs 8:7-8. For my mouth will speak truth. Wickedness is an abomination to my lips. All the words of my mouth are with righteousness. Nothing crooked or perverse is in them. And I think about like how women, females, like how they often like twist the truth. Like it's always this like, I'm gonna twist it just a little bit. And it's like, wait a minute, that's not exactly what was said. And I find myself like as I'm like reading scriptures on like lying and being forward, with the mouth and things of that nature. I do look at it as like, okay, you have to. It's tied into listening too, like being able to receive and hear truth and be able to like really like hear it and listen and not like really hear what is being said, not like
Mhm,
twist it and say, oh wow, I think it was said because I do it a lot where it's like, that wasn't actually what was said. That's what you heard though. And it's like
mhm,
so it's like I do see like listening is connected to not being in that spirit where you're twisting things and
mhm,
but I do think about fear, which you mentioned, Okoti, and how like fear is the opposite of love. And it's like, okay, fear disconnects you. And I think about like a lot of the things that we do that is wicked is like it seems like it always goes back to a fear. Whether it's like I'm a fear of being really seen, or like I have an insecurity, and there's a fear there, or there's a fear of like judgment. It seems like it's always tied back to some fear, and it's like, oh man, it's like this thing's like a really large. I can definitely see how people make fear their Yah, because it's like it's really like it really disables people in a lot of ways.
Mhm. When you talk about fear, there's a couple of things, a lot of thoughts that's swirling through my head, and I'm thinking about like when he talks about just how your pride gets in the way, right? And how that can keep you in a space where like you've fallen from grace, like you fall from out of your divine potential. And then just that pride. And that pride is that one of those seven deadly sins. And I thought about like even fear, all of those things. Yah has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. And so my mind goes, well, how do you get to those things? If those things are present, if fear is present, if pride is present, how would you rid yourself of those things, or those essentially those seeds of thought that are coming from Satan, right? Or Gadriel. And so I thought about fasting and the whole concept of, afflicting your flesh to be able to get to know the Most High Yah, and to get to a place where you're no longer operating in fear or anxiety, or when you're in those moments when someone's calling you out, you're not so quick to be like, no, I didn't say that, and that ain't me, and no, 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 no. But maybe get into a place where your true self can come forth, and then you can get to a place where you're rising to your divine potential. But I think about like, yeah, you have to hurt to get there, so that if you love me, you'll obey me, you'll keep my commandments. That love is that connection, that getting to know. So if you know fear, and you know this the seed of Satan so well, then how do you get to a point where you know the seed of Yah,
Hmm.
so that you can that's where my thoughts are going.
That
Yeah.
kind of reminds me of last night when Chief had raised the question. It was something, I'm not gonna try to quote it, but it's something to the effect of, "Can you imagine life without Babylon?" You know, like life without Babylon as an alternative.
Mm-hmm.
And talking about Caesars of Satan, and considering the idea of saying, "I'm a child of the Most High."
Mm-hmm.
And what Chief was talking about with DNA, like if you're a child of the Most High, and you're gonna, or if you're like a child of one of those seraphim, and they had a child in a physical body, they're gonna take on their physical characteristics because of their DNA. It
Hmm.
should be pretty similar with our actions. If we say, "I'm a child of the Most High," our characteristics and the way that we move and the way that we respond to people and the way that we treat people should portray that in a
Mm-hmm.
way that we don't have to claim to be a child of the Most High. I'm a child of God. I'm a child of God. Like, you don't have to go through all of that. It's almost like in Game of Thrones, when one of the elders of one of those families that, like, we marrying our second cousins with the Lannisters,
Mm-hmm.
the patriarch of the family, I think his name was Tywin, and his grandson was the king at that point. But he
Mm-hmm.
keeps saying, "I'm the king." He's like, anyone who has to say, "I am the king," is no true king.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of similar with being a child of the Most High. Like, you don't have to proclaim it. Like, "I'm a child of God. I'm a Christian." I don't do that. It's like, nah,
I
people could
see.
look at you, your coworker could look at you and be like, this isn't going to fly well with her. So
This
I'm going to
one
say something
is
slick and move on, you know,
mm-hmm.
to preserve my allegiance to my father,
Mm-hmm.
'cause I ain't with, but whatever she doing, it seems anti what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to try to make it seem as though it's her loss. by saying that, well, your people are going to say that I'm corrupting you. It's like, well, why didn't she say you're going to say I'm corrupting you? Why would I make
Mm,
it seem as though you don't have a mind of your own?
mm.
Oh, you're brainwashed. I'm talking about what quote unquote normal people talk about, and you're not into that because you clearly have a covering. So I'm not going to bring that to you. But I'm going to say it in a slick way to make it seem as though it's your loss, not mine.
Y'all face said bingo.
That's what-
Like real life, like girl.
Those be the games that be being played.
Mhm.
But that's
No,
be like it's a game. That's what I think about, like those sort of like tactics. And I think about Jezebel, the Jezebel series that he did, because like I think that he really broke down and gave the language for those who don't know how to describe what's happening and what's going on. You can put a name to it. So if someone
Mhm.
is don't really call out a Jezebel like directly, but like just being able to like if you are in the presence of a Jezebel, just know like, okay, they're doing this. Okay. It's like being able to like name what's happening. But that
Yeah.
example that Malay gave, that's what I thought of. I was like, ooh, that's a very slick person.
Yeah.
Very
And even being able to call it out within yourself, I think, because he did talk about how we still, some of us, well, a lot of us, we still deal with it, those thoughts that come into our head and will try to push us to do certain things. And I think, I just know from experiences, like when I do fast or when I have those moments to fast, and I am communing with the Most High Yah, when those thoughts come up, I'm better like aware and I can speak to it and call it out and say, oh, don't do that because you're just thinking this. And that thought right there is actually of Jezebel, or it's a Satan, a seed of Satan,
Mhm.
as opposed to what the Most High Yah has said. And so you're easier, like you're able to catch yourself a little bit more than you would if you're not fasting and really seeking the face of the Most High Yah. So that's something I'm thinking about as you brought that up.
Yeah, you become more aware, and that does happen. That has been my experience with fasting too. You do become more aware of like the thoughts that are happening. You're like, did I just have that thought? And then you got to go write it down. Like that's in me. That's in me.
That's
And
it.
I notice that does happen more like when I'm fasting.
Mhm.
Definitely. Um,
Being able to, I guess also being able to, because you're so much in the presence of Yah and that spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh, you get that power, it starts to generate. And I know Matthew talked about that. Like once you get that power, it's that power to be able to push those thoughts up off of you. So it's like, when when you are obedient and you do what is told of you to do, like you do start to experience um the fruit of those teachings that he's been giving us. So
Yeah, he talked about that in the repentance in that segment, and what stuck out to me in regards to that is that you get the power from on high, from Yah, that helps you to actually like get rid of like those things that you've been plagued with for years. Like that's been my thing with that segment. I'm like, okay, you've been struggling with something for years, and you've been given the power to eradicate that. That power did come from on high, because that was, you know. Um, but yeah, that's what came to my mind. I don't know if you want to share anything else, Maximilian. Like I seen you came off mute, but feel free.
I was actually thinking of something similar to what you just said, Sister Sequoia, about those higher thoughts or that power coming from on high. Chief had brought this up during it was an internal study session, and he was speaking about the Sermon on the Mount. And he said something last night that reminded me of it, because he said the people in the audience are the lower thoughts, and the
Mm,
people up on higher, like the higher thoughts.
mhm,
So you would have Yahushai being the more higher thought, and the people who were receiving the messages that he was given being the lower thoughts, and
mhm,
him governing his lower thoughts. So he had said something else to the effect of I can destroy my little thoughts. I could devour them. I could, I could get rid of them. If you're on the mountain, we're talking about the Elohim being on the mountain again. But even if, in your own mind, you're on the mountain, and you're the one giving decrees to the ones below the mountain, then
Mm-hmm.
you would have a greater level of compassion for your lower thoughts. And it's like, nah, you don't need to do that. Like, nah, don't do that. I know what you are. I know what you were bred from. And I understand what you are, but we're not doing this, and eventually you do starve it out. And it's not like there's still a lot of resistance that you have because it was something that you associated with. But the more you associate with your most high and the more you associate with your divine inheritance, it becomes, you start to see it as separate from yourself. Like, I know exactly what birthed you, and we don't do that anymore. Oh, you came from a plantation. It's like, do I still live on a plantation? I kind of do. So I need to get out there. Or you were birthed from um, a horrible breakup. Do I still mate in the same way? No, I don't. So I know exactly what gave rise to this messed up breakup. We probably started wrong. And it's like, all right, I know how to move from here. And you're not moving based on that trauma. But it doesn't mean that you don't have any scars. It just means, okay, I understand what that trauma is, and I'm better equipped to deal with people who may have a similar trauma, but they're not blessed to have the teachings that we have access to. And you start to see a level of responsibility there instead of looking at some of your lower order thoughts as like a burden that you carry. You see opportunities to free yourself and to help others to see that they don't necessarily have to live in bondage to these things. But sometimes it's just a matter of equipping them with the language to tell what this thing is. I just been in a funk for the past couple of days. I don't know what's really wrong with me. I'm just gonna go to sleep.
I mean, that speaks to the power of words, like being able to speak to that thing that you're feeling and not just like, I don't know what this is, or but being able to put a word to it or to describe it. And that's, something that we are charged to be able to do.
Yeah, for sure. And being a being anti um seeds of Satan or Galileo, um, you're understanding, okay, everything has been flipped. And in order to move based on what my Elohim has given me, I already know that I may need to have one of those long fight scenes in the alley. I might need to have a couple of those. Um, but he didn't fight everybody. You know what I mean? The one who he brought into the truth, this was someone who, as soon as he understood what was going on, he strapped up. Like, he's like, all right, we got to stop this thing. It wasn't someone who was like, they put the glasses on, they take them off, and it was like, I didn't see that. Yeah, take these glasses, get out of my face, and then they go into hiding. So like Chief was saying, each one teach three. The quality people will stick around because they understand, they can see the value of it, even if they can't put words to it.
They can see the value. Absolutely. I'm a little in and out with that one because I didn't actually get to see the movie that we watched on your review. So I'm kind of like, it's fight scene. I heard somebody, I heard you guys talk about a fight scene for 5 minutes or something, but I'm like,
Yeah, that was a long fight scene. I watched the movie a couple of years ago. I was in transit when the movie night happened, so I didn't get to watch it with everyone. So I'm sure I missed a couple of gems from how we do the recap and the breakdown afterwards.
yeah, I have to go back and watch it. I heard Roddy Piper was in it, so I'm like, well, if it was a fight scene, I'm sure he won. I don't, I don't know, but I'll
Well,
go
for
back.
those who don't know, we're talking about the movie They Lived. They Lived.
The, the
So
nature
yeah,
of the victory is more important than like who physically won. So he won. His victory was that he finally got the person who he was fighting to see.
Hmm.
You know, it wasn't that he threw the most punches because they both took a beating. Right? That was a scrap.
yeah, it was like symbolic to how we try to wake up our friends and family, or those who are close to us. And it's like sometimes a
Okay.
lot of us don't win. He was trying to force them to put on the glass, put on these glasses, see what I see. And sometimes we do the same thing. Like a lot of us, like just from the stories I've heard, will try to like share with our family, like, hey, get them to see and that sort of thing. But it's like it don't always work. I can't say that any of my, close family have like was able to put them glasses on and they just yeah.
Hmm. And it makes me wonder if they're holding on to the seed of Satan. If it's that not wanting to see the truth, if it's because they that seed of Satan is just so like, gimme, yummy, 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 hold on to it. This is mine. You know, I wonder if
Yeah.
it's that.
We could
Or,
also consider like
hmm.
what you were saying about um, this energy being the accuser of the angels or the accuser of the saints,
Hmm.
and some of the deflective statements that people use sometimes whenever someone brings up anything scriptural,
Hmm.
or any type of ideas around living a more righteous life or doing away with unrighteous behavior. And it's like, well, everybody sins. Or they might say, well, that nobody's perfect. We all do our little dirt. Some of us smoke, some of us drink. But at the end of the day, as long as you love people,
Yeah.
then that's all that matters, right? Or they say, oh, well, all those pastors, they just lie and steal from their congregations anyway. All of these priests out here, all they doing is raping little boys. So I don't want nothing to do with that. So it's always an accusation against those who are anywhere related, the worst parts of anything related to anything scriptural. There's not really any study like, nah, I studied this thing and I have confirmed that it is wicked. I
Hmm.
heard something relatively wicked, or I heard something wicked about someone relatively related to this thing that I think you're telling me about. And I'm going to use that to keep things the way it is. Or like Chief had said in one segment, some people they're just like, I could go the rest of my life without knowing that. So I don't care about what you're saying.
Mm. I guess with knowing that it's a greater responsibility, or maybe it's a heavier load you would have to carry. Like once you know, you can't go back, so it's kind of like I don't want to carry that. So I don't know. I want to know.
Right. I don't know and I don't want to know.
That
Hmm.
makes me think what Master shared, like a lot of the problems that we have is because of ignorance, and a lot of the problems are solved through knowledge.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
oh, that's like boom, like, there you have it. So it's like yeah, some people purposely choose ignorance. I remember years ago I had ignorant thoughts like, well, I don't know what I don't know, and just is satisfied with saying something so silly like that, or ignorant like that.
Hmm.
So I definitely, yeah, I can see it, and I was one of those persons that would just accept that I'm ignorant. It's okay, and it's not okay, you know. So that's why I'm
I
like, next study session, we gonna come with some stuff, right? 'Cause, yeah, I was like,
quit.
I'm gonna come with something. It was so much given. I was like intrigued. I was like, I was on the edge of my seat hearing things about Anu and Key. I'm like, okay, yeah. Gotta come with something. So if y'all want to throw in the comments or throw in the comment section what you're gonna bring to study session or what like popped out that made you want to say like, I'm going to go explore this further. This is gonna be my brief that I'm gonna throw in and you know,
yeah.
but
You know what? I could actually, I don't know if I'm taking up too much space if no one else is joining. So I'm going to mosey on out. You know,
oh
some of the people in the chat could join in because I'm
Okay.
sure they're itching to join in. I'm just being selfish. right now, just sitting there, hogging up the room, hogging up the seat. So I'm a mosey on out so that everybody else could join in, because I'm sure they got something from today, as well. That's different from what I got. Yeah. So give thanks, sisters, for the bill, and peace. And I'll be in the chat.
Hold on.
Thank you.
There was something that I'm just looking through all my notes and I'm like, man, there's so many things that we could just really talk about. Or, I didn't know. I guess it tripped me out when he talked about how I being tricked by Gadriel or Gadriel. Right.
Serpent and Nakash.
Like how he was able to just tie it all back. Like we knew, okay, it was a serpent, but no, that serpent was actually Gadriel. And then how he tied it back to like the masonry sign and the G. And I'm like, oh my goodness. I know a lot of masonry people, like some are even in I think maybe one or two people are like in my my earthly family, I guess. And yeah, I didn't know these things. So I'm like, oh my goodness, I didn't know these things. Like, that kind of just made me go, well, maybe I need to look into this, or not maybe, but I'll go look into it and, study a little bit more. But that was something that just kind of, maybe that'll be my break when we do study session next strong.
Yeah, because I think a lot of the women in the Bible, they give lessons that have yet to be explored fully. And I know with like Eve, I was trying to break down, okay, what is the lesson that she's given to all of us? All of us have the Eve inside of us. So I was like, okay, well, I was like, for one, she twisted what the Most High said, and she hearkened on the words to serpent and not Adam. So I was like, okay, there's a mistake. So it's like, okay, those are the two lessons I learned from her. Like, okay, do not hearken onto the serpent, and don't twist what the Most High word is. So I was like, okay, thank you, Eve, for that lesson, and trying to make those same mistakes.
I'm thinking about when you said don't twist the words. I'm like, yeah, sometimes we have to meet with masters. Like some of us have to write stuff down.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, wait a minute, say that again. Let me get this exactly how you said it, because it's like I don't want to do the wrong thing. So, oh man, there was something else. There was another thought that came to mind. I'm gonna stop after this, but I thought about like being a child, and you know how like if you have a father and he tells you to do something, or if you're doing something and you do it and it's like it's wrong or something, and your father comes along and said, what are you doing? Does this make sense? And they ask you like, does this make sense? Think about what you're doing, or think about what you just did. You like, you know what? That didn't make sense. So I thought about that when you talked about like being able to think, and divine, your divine potential is being able to think. And so I just tie that all back to like why we're given so much information and, as he says, crumbs, to be able to go out and go on that quest and look at things that is being presented to us in our face and really think, does this make sense? Are we being tricked, or, is somebody telling us something that's not of truth? So that's my spiel, my end.
Thank you. I think that's a beautiful point to just kind of end it on that. And I thank everyone for joining us today. Thank you for all those who shared what they shared in the chat. We appreciate it. For those who are interested in joining ANU, our community, of course, go to anulifeglobal.org and sign on up. Definitely don't shy away from joining the study sessions too, and just adding, throwing your bricks in there too. Like whatever you got from today's Sabbath Insight, just share in the comments, share on the lives. You are welcome to share. Don't be afraid. Don't let fear stop you. But yeah, I just appreciate each and every person who joined today. And Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Toda Rabba. Peace.
Peace.